Ms. Peepers Reading Corner. I am Katrina, aka Ms. Peepers. Let's talk about books. Specifically, we're going to be talking about journals. So we're in kind of a weird setup today uh, because I have not actually done any kind of filming from this desktop view. So bear with me as we work this out. I wanted to talk to you about journals, specifically reading journals, but also I'll share some of my other journaling since we're here. And the reason that this is coming up is as part of, like, I'm in the Discord for the Amazing Readathon, and people are posting their journal spreads for that readathon and different things that they're doing artistically. And there's some really cool stuff out there, and I love that. But then there are also people who are commenting saying, "Oh, I don't feel great about my journal. Like mine's not as fancy as yours. You don't, you're so artistic, etc." Not to me specifically, but to other people who are posting things. So I was hoping to make people feel a little better, but also I wanted to talk also about how reading journaling can happen, and that you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be like super creative in order to do this, and you don't have to have a lot of time either in order to keep a reading journal. And so I thought I'd show a couple of different journals that I have kept over the years for my reading, and show you some of the evolution from actually kind of fancy to really bare bones to what I have now, which is a mix of both. So first, I will say that I enjoy making books from scratch. This is a hobby that I came across entirely randomly. 2018. When did I make this? This is a 2019 journal. So I think 2018 is when I first started this. And this is like, I mean, it's not a bad journal. It's actually kind of cool. I'm really proud of it. I'm not going to show every page of it because I used this as my personal journal as well as where I documented my reading. But I will say in 2019, I was not reading nearly as much as I am now. So I had time to do big, fancy spreads like this, and I say fancy, a little bit tongue in cheek, but like I had time to sit down and, like, yes, I did cut the dust jacket off up, and I took that off the book, and I wrote out on little scraps of paper different quotations that I liked from the book. This one, same kind of thing for this book, Sourdough. But I took the time to do this because I was reading, I think in 2019 I read maybe 13 or 14 books. So I'd finish a book and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to take my time and do this and write this stuff out. And so I did this for a number. Let me see if I can find another one that doesn't have like personal stuff on it. That's what I was trying to avoid, was pages that had personal stuff on them. So anyway, so this is the kind of thing that I did then. This is fun. And if you have the time for this, like I've definitely seen people draw out, like, instead of taking an actual printout or taking the actual dust cover from a book, I've seen people like draw it themselves. And if you can draw well enough, I can draw some things semi well, as you'll see, but if you want to do that, if you want to write out an entire review, if you want to document your in-depth thoughts about a book, you can, but you don't have to. And like this is just a little I guess homage, if you will, to the book, and I did a couple of things like that. So that's what I was doing in 2019. And this is a personal journal as well as an art journal, so like the pages are uneven. I use scrapbook paper to make the pages, and make sure there's nothing. Oh, yep, yeah. It's all got personal journaling on it, so I don't want to, pardon me, there's certain things I don't want to share with the entire internet. But that's what I did here. But then 2021. So 2020, I actually read quite a bit, weirdly. I'm definitely not sharing my 2020 journal at all because, what a year. What a year. But what I did here in 2021 is I literally just made a list. Literally just made a list of all the books that I read. And I put little stars next to ones that I particularly liked. And this is all it is. It's literally just a list. And I kept track of the number, the count so far throughout, so it was easier to count it up. I read 60 books that year. And again, I had personal journaling in here too. But this is, I didn't make this book. This is King Art is the brand. No, there are no sponsorships in this video, by the way. And actually, this was a pretty good book. I did like it, and it was sturdy, and I just had a little book plate on the front to decorate that, and then just this, literally just a little piece of paper, and I wrote 2021 on the spine, so I would remember what year this was. But this was, that's how I did it that year, in 2021, because I was reading a lot, I had other stuff going on, and I just did not have the energy. Now, I did throughout this book, drop some different quotations from different books that I enjoyed. I did write some of those out. I think I have a page from, because I read the Anthropocene Reviewed, and he had let's see if I can find it easily. Probably not, because, so prepared, y'all. I'm so prepared. But there's a page that I had in here where I drew the little circles. If you know, you know. But he has an essay in that book about an artist whose name I cannot remember, who drew a bunch of, oh, here it is. Aha! Who drew a bunch of little circles. And this line from that book, I'm glad to be unalone in cramped circles of restless yearning, which I just really like that quote. And I just took these 2 pages and I drew a bunch of teeny tiny circles, because that's what the essay is about, the art that does this. And you can sort of see potentially, if you are not colorblind. If you are, I apologize, this is just a bunch of dots, but you might be able to see I drew a little flower in here, and there are different shapes and different things in different colors. But I did this over the course of probably a couple weeks, honestly. I just, every once in a while, when I was frustrated or bored or something, needed to move my hands, I just sat and drew a bunch of circles. And this was a relaxing activity, and actually I'm glad I have this, because now I'm thinking maybe I should do this again sometime. It kind of helps quiet the mind a bit. So anyway, that is what I did in 2021. Then this year I got serious. I got a big book. I purchased a bullet journal specifically. I purchased a couple of bullet journals because I decided that I was going to start bullet journaling, and then I decided to get this one so that I could keep my reading journal in here. This has 360 pages in it, so this is massive, and this is gonna keep me for a while, which was the point. And so what I did was, when I started tracking books, I started tracking my reading in 2019. I don't have any records before that other than what I remember having read at some point in some time. But this is when I first actually started writing down what I was reading. And as you can see, 2019, not that many books. What is this? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 books. Haha, see, I shorted myself one. But I read 15 books in 2019. In 2020, I've got this as reading log, sort of, because I know I read more books than this, but it, when I went back through my journal, I just stopped writing it down. I don't know why, because I stopped in I don't know, August. When is it? Yeah, at some point in August. I know my handwriting is tiny and terrible, but I can read it. I stopped in August. I just stopped writing down my books, but I know that I didn't stop reading in August. So here are the ones that I did write down. Go figure. And then 2021, I just, same kind of thing. I just made the list. 2022, I just made the list. I did separate some things out a little bit because I wrote down some quotations, and I read a lot of Terry Pratchett's Discworld. That's when I started reading the series in publication order. So I put that in a separate box, and I put some quotations from different things. So like, there's a little bit of rhyme and reason to this, but not a ton. And then 2023, I just wrote them down mostly. Finished Discworld, and then 2024 was a little bit more organized. This is when I actually got this book in 2024, partway through. So I put a little bit more effort into the layout and into how many books I read, how many books I acquired. They weren't all purchased. You can see my other video about whether buying a lot of books is overconsumption. I don't think it is, but I have a much longer and more well thought out video about that. But I wrote down what books I started but did not finish, and I even wrote down why I didn't finish them, because I was super organized. Look at that. I had 12 mysterious books that I got from a bookstore, a used bookstore. They wrapped up books. So I talked about those throughout my videos. This is also when I started doing BookTube, was last year. So I found myself reading more, also acquiring more books, but I found myself reading more, partly because of BookTube, but in a good way, in a positive way. I started getting more involved in the BookTube community. So like, I participated in the Amazing Readathon for the first time last year. We're in the thick of it right now. We're probably about 2/3 ish through the month. Are we already 2/3 through the month? We are. Anyway, you can see my wonderful that's a plane, okay? That's an airplane and a train and a car, okay? Like, just trust me on that. But anyway, I wrote down what the prompts were and what I read, and we had our face-off weekend, what I read for that, and then I also did a fair amount of book shopping, but part of that book shopping was for the sake of the readathon, so I'd have like short books to read for face-off weekend, or books to match the different prompts. So I don't know why I'm making excuses for myself. There's no need for that. Anyway. And then continuing through the months, and I attempted to participate in TBR Harvest, which is a readathon in October, but October just was not a conducive month for me last year for readathons. That's just how it goes sometimes. So that was that. And now we're in 2015. Wow. Yeah, that was a better year, I think. Anyway, we're in 2025 now. And so this is still ongoing. So I've got I forgot to put my May numbers. I got to put my May numbers in here. I've been tracking. I just haven't done the summary, but I did the TBR-a-thon in January, and that was a bingo board. Or there were a couple of different options. I chose the bingo board, and I got a bingo. Yeah. And so I documented that. This is so Leandra at TBR Zero has a Patreon. And within her Patreon, we're doing a year-long bingo card. So that's what this is. I'm actually probably going to reprint this once we get to the end of the year with all the things filled in, because I was trying to do stamps and it didn't really, not really working. Anyway, but this is part of the, I guess part of the message that, like, these things aren't going to be perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect journal. And quite frankly, if you're striving for perfection, you're probably not going to get started, or you're going to get part way and then freeze. And I say that with love, with respect, that is most likely what's going to happen. One thing I really love about paper crafting is that, one, you cut stuff out and paste it. You can use stamps, you can use pens, you can use markers, you can use whatever, stickers, etc. But one thing I really like about paper crafting is that if something doesn't look right, you can just paste something else over top of it, and keep making layers until it works. So yeah, so I've got my bingo board here, which I'm following along, and I'm making some progress. I'm making some progress. So we're getting there. Um, I attempted to get a Clue readathon. I didn't actually finish, but I made it most of the way. So that was nice. I read 9 books and ended the month with a few books in progress. So that worked out. I have a couple of pages here where I want to read the entire catalog, so like the entire um, set of books that an author has read for or has written rather. For me, I'm choosing authors who are no longer with us and therefore no longer publishing. So I've got a couple pages throughout here. And the reason for that is simply because now I have a finite list, which is not to say, like, I want to read everything that John Green writes, but I don't know how much space to leave, you know? And so I have read everything he's written so far, but he's still writing. He's still around. So and I hope he will publish many more books before all is said and done. So like that's, but it's nice to have this list to be able to check off when I've read books by various authors. So this is Octavia E. Butler and Ray Bradbury. Bradbury wrote so many short stories that I just put the novels here, but I want to read his short stories too. But they're just, it's too many, too many to list. And then here we are in June. This is the Amazing Readathon. So this is still a work in progress because it's still going, but you can get a little peek at my stuff. And again, like I just printed out the art from the readathon itself. So this is not my art. This is Bree's. The Manor bingo board, that's Leandra's. And so I've got that here. And so you don't have to get super fancy. I'm still reading my Camp Half-Blood book for leg, what is this? We're on 7? We're on 7. Wow. We're close. So I'm filling those in as I do them. And this is the board, the game board for the face-off weekend that we had last weekend. So I'm going to paste that in here somewhere, and then I've got note cards where I'm planning out what I'm doing. So these note cards will not stay in there, but it's more what I'm thinking about right now. And I haven't filled these in yet, but I do want to read everything by John Galsworthy and Umberto Eco as well, but I have not listed those out yet. I just made a place for it. So what I like about having a book this big for a reading journal is I've got so much space, and I've got such I can put multiple years in here. And so this will be nice because I can, if I feel artistic or if I feel like writing a big review, I've got space for it. I don't have to worry about running out of pages anytime soon. No time soon. And I can do things like a spread where I'm looking at a readathon, or some months are going to take up more space than others. Like I didn't read that much in March, so you know I didn't need as much space. I didn't read that much in April or May for that matter. So I didn't need a lot of space. I was able to take one page and put those 3 months in here. Other months like this are going to have more in them because of that. So yeah, so hopefully this helps a bit. I wanted to show just my bullet journals as well, even though it's not specifically reading journals, but I think specifically you'll see behind the curtain a little bit on my channel. So this is the book that I use, and again, I'm not going to show every single page because there's a lot in here too, but this is the book that I use for my reading corner. Super fancy. Look how fancy my opening page is. But I do have some notes in here for video editing because they're just like some sound levels and titles and things, so I can have some consistency, and some notes about like how to do stuff because that I don't do as often, because that's really helpful in learning in how to do the how to use the app for editing. I'm going to take a sip of tea here from my kitty cup. All right. I've got my channel stats here, so this is something that I'm just keeping track of because I'm curious I want to be able to see month over month how things are changing. Um, and I don't have like specific subscriber goals or anything like that. I just want to know how we're doing. So I'm keeping track of how many subscribers, how many videos I posted, what was my most popular video as of the end of the month. And so I can get a sense for what kind of content are people connecting with, and how am I doing keeping up with the videos as well. And I'm adding shorts because I just started creating shorts on a regular basis, so I'm putting that in here. That's super squeezed in there, but again, it doesn't have to be fancy. This is a place where I'm just jotting down some video ideas when I have them. And then when I say I don't have subscriber goals, it's not really a goal in that it doesn't have a timeline, but more I want to keep track of, okay, what do you need to get like memberships on YouTube, when to get AdSense, that kind of thing. I'm about to sneeze, pardon me. One moment. All right. Straight out the chamber, a bullet journal story. Thank you, Yield No One. That's funny. um, so yeah, so like these are not timed goals, but these are things that I'm thinking about. I also at some point would like to buy like a quote unquote proper camera. I'm using a webcam right now. I use that for my live shows, and I use my phone for anything that's not that. Which is not bad, by the way. Like modern phones, like our current. Wow, I sounded old when I said that, but like phones are not. Um, Phones do not actually have really good cameras in them, so you don't necessarily need something super fancy, but like at some point, that feels like that would be a good investment potentially. So, but I'm not in a rush because that can get really expensive. But like I want to have that on in mind. And then this is like my first actual handwritten outline of a live video. It was also, I think, was that my first live video? Maybe. No, it was my second or third. Anyway, regardless, I actually wrote out in some detail and color coded and all that stuff how to do this. Contrast that with, let's see, this one for Murder Your Employer, which like, what even is this? I wrote down a dude's name so I wouldn't forget it. And like this is super high level. So it really just, I do what I need in the moment, I guess. I also have a content calendar because I want to keep track of what I'm putting out there and when I'm putting it out there and like what schedule I have. So like this I will have to write in pen for today because we're doing it right now. But I've got my general schedule out here. So that's behind the scenes a bit. And then I'm going to do one more, and this is my personal bullet journal. I'm not going to share again everything that's in here, and I've put some like pages down to hide the stuff that is personal, like my financial goals are in here and stuff like that. But I started out super simply. My actual first bullet journal, I don't even know where it is. I tried to do like the strict bullet journal method, and that was a mistake. That does not work for me. It might work for you, and if it does, I love that for you. It does not work for me. And so I had to adjust it and think about different ways to track things. So like I was tracking my caffeine and alcohol intakes, what I was reading, stuff I was doing for my channel, tracking my sleep and quality and mood and all that fun jazz. I did have some financial goals that I want to do, a little financial reset, so I wrote stuff down for that. I created a personal vision for myself at work and I put it in here. I had some ideas here for my channel. So just kind of keeping it, this is a multi-purpose book, and I really, and you can see like I'm hard on this. I've had to repair it. I've I did not take good care of it, but I kind of like this aesthetic, quite frankly, this like junk journal sort of aesthetic, because it feels like a used. It feels like a lived in book to me. I personally like that. I know other people are like, oh no, you fold it. I like to fold it so I can write on write on things, or like, you know, lean it against the table. I don't have to sit down at a table like this every time I want to write in it. Um, but anyway, it's like this is a tech detox and reading weekend. This is I traced Penny was sitting. I was actually at this table writing this stuff, and Penny sat down, so I traced her. Because it's like, well, if you're gonna sit here, I'm gonna trace you. So anyway, I was tracking what I was doing, and that experience of having a tech detox, a digital detox, a reading weekend, which was very, very nice. I had I played a little bit with goals, with month intro pages. I was not consistent with this. I'm writing goals every month of things that I want to work on. I particularly was happy with this. When I did my banned book series, I created a calendar tracker written here. I had a spreadsheet also, but having something like physical that I could look at and see fill up as I went was really, really nice. It was very motivating, to be able to like jot in. So what I did was I jotted in pencil what I was going to do for each day, or what book I was going to talk about for each day. And then after I filmed it and edited it and scheduled it, I wrote it down in pen, like this is the day. And so one thing I did switch a few things around, so got a little arrow there, but in general, like I used this, and it was really, really motivating to watch this fill in with pen. And as I was doing those videos, and I specifically made a point of getting all of those videos filmed, edited, and scheduled for posting on the appropriate day before October started. And I think I'm going to do something similar again this year. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do for Banned Books Week that turns into Banned Books Month, because I love that. But it's helpful to look back and remember this. Also, if you want to keep track of something that is less fun, like money goals, for example, or maybe some health things or whatever you're looking at, it helps to have your not fun tracker right next to your fun tracker so that you end up looking at both. That's me. Just a bit of a tip there. I did some holiday planning. I always put a lot of effort into the holidays, and actually that's something that I'm thinking about for this year, doing a little bit less, not less quality, but less, just fewer items. But I did do one thing, which was separate my to-do list into things I'm doing for myself and things that I'm doing for other people, which actually helped me kind of keep things balanced. So that was nice. And then here's my planning schedule for the the last couple of weeks before the holiday activities. And I liked using these tabs because I was able to move them around, because you can say, oh no, I'm going to put it here, I'm going to put it here. Basically a Kanban board, if you're familiar with that term, but that was very helpful to just lay it out like this. And then here's April. This year, so this is a couple months ago, I changed entirely what I was doing. As you can see, I have a calendar, I have goals, I have meal plan stuff. I've got for May, I have even just like I did this little what are these called, Dutch doors, to flip over, just to do something different. Something I've learned about myself, here's June. Something I've learned about myself is that I need variety month to month. Otherwise, I am not going to continue with this. I get bored, which is interesting because like I don't have ADHD, but that is advice given to people who have ADHD or similar, like any kind of attention deficit. or neurospiciness of different kinds. Maybe it's my depression, maybe it's my anxiety. I don't know, but having that variety is incredibly helpful and makes me keep coming back, and that's really, really important. So you might be wondering, well, like, these are fancy books, or like you made a book from scratch. I can't do this. I can't be like super fancy. Maybe I don't have the money, maybe I don't have the creativity. So a few things. One, you don't need a lot of money to buy a notebook. These dudes are great. I actually have not started filling this one in yet, but you hit a back to school sale, at least in the United States, you hit a back to school sale and you can get these things like for like $1, less than $1. I don't even know how much they cost now, but like they're super, super cheap. And it's literally a notebook. You can get different types of lines or I think they have blank ones. I'm not sure. But regardless, you can do this. You don't like this cover? You think this is, you can put stuff over it. You can cover it in paper. You can cover it in different stickers. You can do some collaging on it. You can literally take another piece of paper, cut it down to size, and glue it on top. Now this book is blue or teal or green, or I don't want to start an internet fight about what color something is, but like you can literally just make it different. You can paste or tape or whatever adhesive you have, staple, I don't care. It's your book, something in here. Now you've got all sorts of pages. You can fold pages to make little pockets. You can, you can rip pages out if you want more space. You can glue things to the pages. You can write things all over them. You can make little pockets by folding up like this too. Boom. Tape it here. You've got a pocket. Look at that. So lots of easy ways to do this. You can also, I'm going to do this right now. You can also make a book. And you might be saying, Katrina, Ms. Peepers, I appreciate your faith in me, but dude, I can't make books. Well, look, you can Google, and this is how I've done this. You can go into your search engine of choice, which I think for most people is Google at this point. But anyway, you can go into YouTube, we're right here, and you can look up, make a book, junk journaling, paper crafting. You can and you will very quickly find a whole bunch of videos showing you how to do this. And we're going to make a really, really easy one right now. We're going to do it right now. And if this seems spontaneous, it kind of is, in that I decided to do this about 10 minutes before I started streaming. But all you have to do, take a handful, I'm going to take a little bit, take a handful of printer paper. This is printer paper. It happens to be bamboo printer paper, so it's a little bit like ivory beige colored, but literally printer paper, any kind of paper. This is a piece of construction paper, like literally like that kids use for projects. Line them up, fold them in half. Boom. Folded in half. Okay, you've got a book, but the pages are going to come apart. You ready for this? Here's what we're going to do. You can be as precise or not as you would like. So if you want to, so we're going to do a precise-ish version. A pencil. Here's a pencil. You can go in with a pencil and say, all right, this is 8.5, because it's 8.5 by 11 because it's printer paper. So half of 8.5 is 4 1/4. Half of 4 1/4, what is that? 2 1/8. I'm just gonna put this like, I'm actually gonna do 1.5 from here, and then 1.5 from here. So my little dots. So I'm marking 3 dots. These 3 dots are gonna be holes, and we're gonna sew. You ready for this? So 1.5 inches, if you're following along with a piece of computer paper. 1.5 inches here. 4 1/4 inches is the center, and then 7 inches all from the top. Okay. Take an awl or some sort of pointy item. You can use a knitting needle. I happen to have an awl, and yes, this is my crafting awl. But literally, you can do this with anything pointy. a knitting needle, like I said. You can do it with, you know, if you've got a sturdy, like a skewer for like shish kebabs and stuff like that. You could do it with a pen. You'll get pen on it, but like you could do it with a pen if you wanted to. Like, just whatever you choose. Be careful. Be safe. This is pointy, so don't stab yourself. But hold it so that your hand is back from where this is going to come out. Put your awl right in the center here. I just fold it in half, and then I push through just a little bit. Hopefully that's visible. All right, now I have a hole. Now we'll do two more. We'll do one here. Boo. Come on. We'll do one here, and then we're going to do one here. So you're basically you're punching holes right where you put those dots. Some of the holes might be bigger than others. You can be as precise as you want. All right, now I've got some holes. I pre-threaded this needle just so that I wouldn't make you watch me try to thread a needle, because that can be a pain sometimes. You need a needle, literally any kind of like needle for sewing, and thread, or you can use yarn, you can use twine, you can use twist ties if you want to, like whatever you want to use. This is embroidery thread because it's something that I happen to have around. If you are a knitter or a crocheter, and you can use yarn and the needle that you typically use to sew in your ends if you do that, but literally it does not matter. We're going to do a super basic binding here. We're going to go through the center. So from the inside, you can do inside or outside, it doesn't matter. We're going to do that from the inside. From the inside, you go through the middle hole, and then don't go all the way. Hang on to it with your thumb. Then you're going to come back through one of the sides. So the top hole, we'll call it the top hole. You can pull. You want to make sure that it doesn't have to be super tight, but you want to make sure that it's taut. You're going to come all the way down to the bottom hole, so go to the other end and go through from the inside. Same kind of thing. You want it to be kind of taut. And then you're going to come through the middle hole again. And it is a good practice to make sure you've got your two ends in the middle around this center piece here. And then you're going to tie a knot. Boom. You can do a double knot. I like double knots. They just feel sturdier to me. Tie a knot, and then you cut it. And that, my friends, is literally it. Let's put a cap back on this all. And now you have a little notebook. Look at that. Easy peasy. You can get something heavy, or just something a little more sturdy to flatten that some more. You can put it under a couple of books. If you're here, you probably have at least a couple books in your house. So put a couple books on top of it, flatten it overnight. But here you go. And then you can just get, here, I've got a Sharpie right here. And now you can just start decorating the front journal. Boom. And that is it. Now you have a notebook. Look at that. Was that easy? That was the easiest thing. And really inexpensive. If you don't have a piece of, like, almost everyone has printer paper of some kind, but even if you don't have plain printer paper, you don't have to use plain paper at all. You got most people have scraps of paper of some kind. You can even take, where did I put it? I threw it on the floor. You can even take, oh, here it is. I did not throw it on the floor. I put it here. You can take pages out of your composition book. You can rip pages out and do this. You can use graph paper if that's what you've got. You can make it entirely out of construction paper. Like, this is just regular construction paper or cardstock, you can make it entirely out of this. You can make your cover, if you want to get really fancy with the cover, you can make a cover out of like the cardboard from, like thin cardboard from something like a cereal box, or there's so much packaging for everything that we acquire. So like you can do it with literally anything, and you can make it whatever size you want. You can make it however thick you want. You can make a bunch of these and put them together into a bigger book, which is really all that journal making is. So you do this, you've got the building blocks of a bigger book if you want to. So hopefully this helps empower people a little bit, that it does not have to be difficult. It does not have to be expensive. You don't have to be like Picasso level artistic if you don't want, if you don't want to seek out those skills. You can also, by the way, seek out those skills, those artistic skills, if you want to. I truly believe that anyone can learn how to be artistic or to do artistic things. Like I'm not great at drawing, but I periodically draw things, and I typically look up tutorials on YouTube, and it works out okay. I mean, I'm not going to be selling my art for, thousands of dollars to collectors or anything, but it works for my purposes. But if you don't want to do that, get stickers. Print stuff out off of Pinterest. Take things out of magazines, or I know some people feel very strongly about never demolishing a book for the sake of art, but I have definitely taken books apart and either used the covers. I mean, honestly, this book I made before, hold on. Of course, I put it on the floor under a bunch of other books. This table is not as big as it looks. Like these covers, I actually took an existing book and took the pages out of the middle and replaced them with my pages. And then it was falling apart. It was ripping. So I made another spine with just, I think this piece of it's just paper. I think this came from like a grocery bag or something. I think is what that is. But anyway, it doesn't have to be super fancy. And you can possibly see that all of these little signatures, all these little groups of papers, literally it's basically this, but with just different papers, and I glued them all in and attached them to a spine and did, it's a little fancier. It's a little more effort than just doing this, but if you want to learn how to do that, there are tutorials all over the internet, and it's actually a lot of fun. I did not mean to turn this into an advertisement for paper crafting, but I just want to make this a little bit more accessible to people who maybe think that they can't do this themselves, who are afraid perhaps to start a reading journal or any kind of journal because they don't want to mess it up. They don't want it to be imperfect. All over my books, I've got stuff crossed out. You can, if you want, get whiteout or get stickers to put over mistakes if you want to. Lots of this. This is literally the structural integrity. The spine was not up to, the original spine of this book was not up to the task of holding this book together. So I stuck another spine on top of it. It doesn't have to be. I guess it doesn't have to be perfect the first time, and you can repair things, and you can improve things. I guess you can gradually make it better. So anyway, I hope this was helpful for folks. I hope it was interesting. Sorry I didn't share all of my financial goals with y'all. Actually, I'm not sorry about that. Sorry, that's yeah, I'm not sorry about that. That's no one's business. But I do really encourage you, if you're watching this, to consider some sort of journaling. It's a great activity. whether it's writing down what books you're reading or what TV shows you're watching, or what how many steps you've taken, or your menu plans for the week, or whatever it is that you enjoy keeping track of that you think you might want to know about later, or tracking your way towards a goal that you have. So it could be a temporary thing, it could be a long-term thing, who knows. But I definitely encourage you to give that a try, to take a look at what you might create and to create artifacts for yourself. And this, seriously, I mean, you all saw how quickly I did this, and I recognize the first time you do this, it's a little tricky, perhaps. It takes a minute. You might have to rewind and follow it slowly, which I did the first time I did a binding like this, by the way. But I've done it a few times, more than a few times now, and it's second nature at this point. So it does not have to be hard, and it does not have to be expensive. That's the big takeaway, I think. Like, I have a bunch of different pens that I use. This is probably the fanciest one. I don't think it was super expensive though. What's this? Its brand is called SIPA. I don't know. They're little thin pens. They're cute, but it's not like fancy. It's like, this is probably the fanciest pen I have. The rest, like, honestly, they look fancier than they actually are. This is just a zebra, like, simple, straightforward pen. So, it does not have to be expensive. It can be if you want it to be, if you have the resources and the interest, but it doesn't have to be. You can literally make a book out of miscellaneous stuff you find around your house. And I encourage you to give that a try if that is of interest to you. All right, I'm going to stop rambling on. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate all of you who watch my videos. I'm still get a little bit emotional. No, I still, it's been a year and a half ish since I started my channel. I'm still amazed that anyone watches any of my videos, much less so many of you. Like, I really was, I'm kind of in awe that we're at, I think, 180 subscribers last I checked, which is so many more than I was expecting. And so yeah, so thank you for being here. Thank you for participating, for engaging. Drop your comments. Let me know if you make journals, if you write in journals, if you buy journals. What kinds of methods do you like to use? Do you keep a reading journal? Digital journals are great too, by the way. Like, I personally prefer paper, but digital is great as well. So there are lots of different options in different media. But yeah, let me know in the comments. But regardless, as I always say at the end of my videos, above all, please keep reading, and I will see you in the next one.